which led to a huge criminal black market, so-called policy displacement, which basically says that the money which was, instead of going into health services, went into law enforcement. The geographical displacement, which means that the distribution of drugs or usage of drugs got shifted into another area. So instead of one country, it moved to another one. So, also so-called substance displacement. Hello. So, for example, if the supply of one drug was decreased, users of the drug just moved to another substance. And also, in my opinion, the biggest point is the marginalization of drug users in society, which created a stigma, which is very unhealthy for every society. Also, at the 69 General Assembly, there was a thematic debate about drugs. It was in May 2015, so very, very new. And here's some quotes, which I think kind of state the ongoing process of change in that regard. So, during the plenary debate, ministers and other senior officers officially said that 15 years after the first commitments were made to address the world drug problem, it was time to recognize that policies had not achieved the desired results. Also, the war on drugs is in fact a painstaking, laborious, often thankless and seemingly unending struggle. It was Mr. Jan Allison, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, and the next one is a very interesting thought as well. So the evidence is clear. Countries that integrate health and support have better outcomes. We must promote health-based responses, we must ensure access to controlled substances for pain relief, we must promote HIV prevention services, and we must protect young people, prevent use without criminalizing them. So I know very interesting official statements from the UN towards a health-based approach. Also here some regions who have in their opinion, their statements on this debate. So the European Union is basically on a balanced health-based approach, which basically means lower drug supply and demand, invest in prevention treatment to reduce the drug-related deaths, also improve access to medicine, and abolish the death penalty in the context of drug prosecution. Then Latin America, Ecuador spoke on behalf of the so-called CELAC, so it's like Latin America and the Caribbean Sea. They're basically saying that they're sort of like a hippie approach, in my opinion. So they're saying the quality of life and human rights should be the center of drug policies. So with a health-based approach, based on education and social inclusion, this way of thinking is like a key for prevention and finding alternatives to imprisonment. On the other hand, there are a lot of, let's say, opposing parties on this regard. So the African members are basically saying that they don't really want one approach to be the main thing, but also they're focused on a jurisdictional system which is trying to counter criminal activities, and also they're saying it could improve in their prevention policies. Russia, on the other hand, Kate is going to say something about that later. China is so this was one-page statement which basically said they're going to stick to the three conventions which are already existing and oppose the demands of legalization. Afghanistan was pretty clear that they're opposing a health-based approach as well, because they just implemented the 2003 counter-narcotics strategy of the UNODC, which they will resume. And despite some achievements in the fight against drugs, the consumption and production actually went up. So good. India also was a very short statement which basically said we're going to stick to the three conventions which are already existing. Yeah, almost all addresses the need to tackle the issue of new psychoactive substances, which is in a huge discussion at the moment. So, going from that to our survey. Oh yeah, how do we do the survey and what do we do with it? So we were working together with the UNODC staff, so actually people in the UN who were helping us, evolving our questions. We created a questionnaire in November 2014, and based on that we went to the UNODC and asked them, hey, what do you think about the survey? How do you think it's going to work? And do you have any improvement or which you would suggest? And they took time with us, sat down with us, and it was really like a unique position which we as young people got into through Acorns. And so we had a lot of resources which we could gather and bring together in the survey. So what did we actually do? What happened in the survey? Here are some results of them. So this is like, the question is, have you ever taken any substance without a doctor's prescription? And it's very interesting to see that regarding marijuana, almost like 60% of the people answering our survey already took marijuana. Also, the university was quite surprised by even the high numbers of ecstasy, cocaine, what else do we got? LSD, magic mushrooms, which are pretty high in like a global scale because of the fact that they're different positions. So like the red ones answered no, and the green ones answered yes. Another question we had was about stigmatization. So this table shows like the green thing mean they took alcohol before, so users of alcohol and non-users of alcohol, about like a scale from 1 to 4 about the stigmatization in society of drugs. And you can pretty much clearly see like people who took the drug think less that they're getting stigmatized than people who never took the drug. So yeah, very interesting results, especially on cocaine, because like I don't want to answer it's pretty high, and they still think no stigmatization or whatever. So the next question was about if they actually think that these substances are dangerous when they're used without a doctor's prescription. And you can clearly again see a trend. People who use the drug don't think it's very dangerous, and people who never use the drug have the impression that it is dangerous to take them. Yeah. So it's basically a survey about perception. Getting perception in a society is it's quite a qualitative term to approach, especially with like quantitative methods which we use. Another very direct question: should the law allow the use of marijuana without a doctor's prescription? So we divide this in like people who actually use marijuana before and people who never used marijuana. Yeah, it's pretty clear. And like 70% of the people who took marijuana, like from the 60%, say that marijuana should be legalized, and only 34% of the people who use, I mean, only, or maybe it's a high number, I don't know, you can interpret this however you want. Yeah, very interesting results in that regard. Another question, we talked about safety measures and asked the people if they take drugs, if they take certain safety measures to assure that they stay safe, exclamation marks. So like simple things like look out for friends, or look at the amount of consumption, stuff like that. And then we asked like, why wouldn't you take, or why would young people not take these safety measures? And the highest response we got because they were afraid of stigmatization. And on the other hand, they were afraid of prosecution and fear of police when they would call emergency services in case of an emergency, which is, I don't know, an alarming thing. And the third thing was they don't know that they actually can ask help for emergency. Yeah. What is the future about the survey? So we already have it in English, French, Spanish, and now Russian. We're trying to translate it in Chinese and Arab. Then we're trying to get funding, maybe from the UNODC, which is in talks, and then distribute it as wide and far as possible. So everyone who is interested in it, please engage it. Also, the ongoing discussions on policy changes at the UNGAS 2016. We hopefully will see a change. Who knows? So youth engagement and their opinion, in my opinion, is very important, because as we are the future, and we're going to have a policy change which is going to be influencing us as a generation. It's very important that actually we are involved in this. So I have this short little thing. So the UNGAS 2006 is going to be a very interesting event which will show if the regional policy changes all over the world can have an effect for a global framework to counter the problems of production, distribution and trafficking of substances, and create an approach which leads to more just, sustainable and peaceful societies by reframing the picture of drug users in societies and build a health approaching system based on quality of life and human rights. Yeah, that's basically it. And now my partner, Kate, is going to present something about the Russian perspective.
Yeah.